Yes, good morning. Thank you for that introduction, and thank you for inviting me to take part in your National Policy Conference. And also, I would like to thank and recognize the traditional territory of the Coast Salish people of British Columbia. The United Steelworkers are a proud and strong union whose long history of political activism and standing up for the rights of its members is to be admired and acknowledged. Today, I want to address the panel's issue of temporary foreign workers and how this issue impacts our communities, and to share with you some of the thoughts about the broader struggle around the rights and titles of our people. We all know that these are tough economic times. Jobs and economic opportunities are the concern of our leaders and communities, just as they are concerns of yours. My people are not against development. We want and need to share in economic opportunities as well as our neighbors, but we will not stand for bad development, environmentally unsustainable projects, or bad economic policies like the Temporary Foreign Workers Program. We share the anger and frustration of this union that the TFW plan has increased by over 100% under the federal government to an estimated 338,000 people, as reported in the Globe and Mail yesterday. And clearly what we are seeing is that the Conservative government is putting the interests, the bottom line interests of large corporations over that of ordinary Canadians. And as this issue gets debated, examples like the RBC's plans to replace 50 employees with foreign workers has brought to light fundamental concerns, including the social cost of outsourcing jobs both for the guest workers and our communities. Here in British Columbia, HD Mining proposed hiring 200 Chinese workers for the coal mine in Tumbler Ridge. And that is the region that I come from, and I can tell you, while that is happening in some of our communities, we're seeing over 80% unemployment. As a matter of fact, one of my friends went to that job site and was turned away. Meanwhile, the 211,000, the labor survey shows the following. 211, the labor market performance of Aboriginal Canadians, including those living on reserve, was considerably worse than non-Canadians. The unemployment rate was 5.6% higher than everybody else. The employment rate was 6.2 percentage points lower, and the participation rate 2.8 percentage points lower. And these figures would be worse for the people living on reserve, as I've indicated to you. Between 2007 and 11, the labor market performance of Aboriginal Canadians deteriorated in absolute terms relative to non-Aboriginal Canadians. The unemployment rate for Aboriginal Canadians rose 2.2 percentage points, and the employment rate fell 2.2 percentage points. And I'd like to share some important demographic statistics about our youth. 48% of Aboriginal people are less than 25 years of age, compared to 31% for non-Aboriginal Canadians. Canada's population of young Aboriginals is one of the fastest growing demographics. By 2026, the number of 15 to 19-year-old Aboriginal youth is projected to be 37% larger than in 2001, compared to 6% for the same age group in the general population. The temporary foreign workers policy is flawed, short-term fix to the challenge of labor shortages, and as one commentator remarked, discourages Canadian firms from taking the steps necessary to be innovative and competitive. When banks and fast food restaurants are taking advantage of this program, it calls into question exactly what labor shortages this policy is supposed to address. Where, I ask, is the commitment and the resources for education and training? Where is the commitment for long-term plans for producing workers who can work their way up the ladder? Where are the incentives for businesses to develop that kind of culture in their corporations? Where, in short, is the much talked about job creation focus of this government? Friends, while this issue is an important one, it is only one part of the struggle for my people. It is estimated by the federal government that there are $650 billion worth of resource activities pending in First Nations territory in the next coming 10 years. Virtually every resource project now being pursued, proposed, or envisioned involves the lands and resources of First Nations. To produce real change that expands on gains made and make them the rule rather than the exception, we must become organized. If there is to be sustainable economic development of resources with certainty for investors, then as First Nations, we must have the capacity to be fully involved as partners. We must have the support and resources to build businesses, marketing capacity, engage in research and development, and apply our traditional knowledge to find environmentally sustainable solutions to economic development and diversification. And the key, in my view, to unlocking economic development in this country is a partnership between the First Nations of Canada and Canadians. And there are two key elements for that to happen. We must have resource revenue sharing between the public governments of Canada and Aboriginal governments, and we must have profit sharing between those corporate interests that want to come and access the resources from our land base. And I want to leave you with one of the great lines from rock and roll. And it goes something like this: they hate you if you're clever, and they despise a fool. A working class hero is something to be.